MyFantasySportsTalk.com.
Last week on My Fantasy Podcast, I think Harden and even Chris Paul were trying to be the mediators. Yeah. Trevor Ariza is the one who wanted more, and Chris Paul knew a back way into the locker room.
See, that I believe.
Yeah, that I believe. That's such a punk move by Chris Paul that I would totally believe. Hey, guys, I know the back way through the laundry chute. The key name here that you may look to get moved, Lonzo Ball. I guess it just depends on how much LeVar spends time in Lithuania over the next couple of weeks. But be careful. Be careful, Lonzo. You'll be on the trading block if your dad don't zip it.
No.
You think I'm playing? I'm not. Of course not this year, but within 2 years, you think I'm playing. Magic will trade.
You be playing.
Lonzo.
You be playing.
I don't be playing.
You be playing.
I ain't playing.
Yeah, you playing. Yeah, I mean,
Lonzo just hopes that his brothers and his dad stay in Lithuania as much as they can to take the pressure off him so that he doesn't have to hide from Magic Johnson in the Lakers' practice facility. Hello, folks. How you doing out there? Another My Fantasy Podcast coming at you. Myself, Brandon Reed, and Dan Schalk. You know us from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. This is episode 3, season 3. We are glad you're here. Hi. Hello. Dan, say hello to the nice folks at home.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
That was all the nerdiness I'd hope out of you, Dan. So on today's show, hey, Dan, in honor of LeBron James reaching 30,000 points, I'm wearing my Michael Jordan shirt. Legends are born in May, baby. So what you think about that? Youngest player ever to reach 30,000.
Definitely impressive. I think he's the greatest of his generation now. I mean, I think he's kind of passing the torch, but for so many years, he's been the dominant force in the NBA, and it's sad to see how rough shape the Cavaliers are in right now and moving towards this NBA trade deadline because there's talk of moves, and the move that I think we kind of talked about it earlier, George Hill. What's that going to do? What's the real point of that?
I think you're getting past Boston with George Hill. I mean, I just hope that's a first move in a chain of moves that's going to land you somebody like Anthony Davis or DeAndre Jordan, or at least someone with a little bit more punch than George Hill, because George Hill ain't getting you past Boston. George Hill may not even get you past Toronto at this point. I don't get that, but anyway, that's going on. So a lot of NBA news to talk about today. That Cavs slide just keeps on sliding. The NBA All-Star Game coming up. Got a lot to talk about there with a brand new format to the NBA All-Star Game this year, as the NBA All-Star starters and reserves are now announced, but it's not East versus West, in case you forgot. It's going to be a draft, sort of like the NFL started doing with the Pro Bowl a few years ago. So it's Team LeBron and Team Steph Curry. We'll talk about that. That could get interesting. But thanks for joining us here. Another episode of My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. I'm going to bring in Orlando Torres here in just a second. This is basically the rundown for today's show. A lot of Super Bowl talk, matchups. I don't know. Dan probably predicted it. I didn't. I picked exactly opposite of what actually happened, which is no surprise to anyone that's been following our Pick'ems piece over the last several weeks. Basically, see what I did and do exactly the opposite, and there's going to be your winner, easy peasy. We're also going to take a look back. I've been doing some numbers, Dan, been doing some research here I dropped on y'all this week, and this is going to be a piece I'm going to unveil this weekend, maybe Sunday. Sunday would probably be a good day to unveil a piece over the weekend anyway, since we got an off week this week, basically, from the NFL. But I've been doing some numbers, Dan, because it just seemed to me like the underdog won more this year than any other year. Maybe it just seemed like it. I only did research on this year. I didn't go back in previous years. So maybe not. It just seemed like I had a harder time predicting the winners in this NFL season than ever before. It just felt like that. So I did some numbers there, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But NBA All-Star game, All-Star snubs, who got completely snubbed out of it. We'll talk about that draft situation. We'll talk about the dunk contest participants that we know of as of right now. And then let's talk a little NBA fantasy, since we hadn't really touched on that in a couple of weeks. Biggest surprises and biggest disappointments to the NBA fantasy aspect of things now that we're halfway through the season. Then we're going to answer that big old bag of mailbag questions. My fantasy podcast mailbag will be open, and we'll take random questions out. And several of those random questions were foodie questions this week. We're going to end with that, Dan. But you told me that the foodie questions are blowing up, had multiple choices this week.
Yeah, I guess people like to eat because they keep throwing them at us and what we like. And I know I like to eat, so why not discuss that too? And some of them are good. I mean, this one, I picked this one this week because I thought it was perfect. I mean, Super Bowl is coming up, so it's a Super Bowl related food question, so you can't get better than that right now.
Very good question, because it can go a lot of different ways. But we'll talk about that to wrap up the show. So appreciate all the questions you guys keep submitting. The audience is growing, like I said, and the realm of questions is growing and expanding too. We cover everything. Here's something I noticed on today's show. Let me break this down for you, Dan, real quick. Don't know if you noticed it, but number one, right off the top, I love the variety of questions, because we've got Super Bowl questions. We've got regular NFL offseason questions. We've got NFL draft questions. We've got college basketball questions. We have got NBA questions. We've got the foodie questions. But this is something else, Dan. There was a stretch here. I don't know if you noticed this. So we got a question from a guy who, I don't know, maybe a Patriots hater. Don't really know where he's from. But we got a few in a row here. Nick Pertins chimes in. I know where he's from. He's from West Memphis. But we also got a Boomer Sooner checking in today. And we've also got someone from, where was it? New Orleans. We got a New Orleans fan checking in too. So the My Fantasy podcast reach and My Fantasy sportstalk.com scope is expanding, and I like the variety that we're hitting on every single week from all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone global, I guess you'd say. I mean, I remember a couple weeks ago, we had a listener ask us a question. We couldn't really pronounce their name. Something with like Ishabili, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, we're reaching not only all the states, but I guess you would say Middle Eastern Europe and different places. So I love it. I love getting the questions. Some of them are a little invasive. They go to, a lot of them find me on Facebook and submit them that way. I recommend you go to the Facebook page, My Fantasy Sports Talk, but keep submitting the questions from all over, and we enjoy answering them. I mean, that's a huge part of our show every single week.
I heard some of the best questions come out of Norway. I don't know if you heard that. Just what I heard. People are talking. So look for those Norwegian questions, Dan.
Yeah, I'll be on the lookout.
Okay, so let's slide our man Orlando Torres up in this thing and get his take on this Super Bowl. Dan, man, I don't know. You picked Minnesota too, right? You didn't pick Philadelphia.
No, yeah. I wouldn't pick Philadelphia in multiple reasons. Obviously, I don't even think they deserve to be in the Super Bowl. They've kind of shut me out the last 2 weeks, but as a Cowboys fan, you can't really pick a division rival in my eyes to win in advance. And I just thought Minnesota's defense was better, and I thought their offense was better too. But as one of our questioners will pose to us, I was surprised by Nick Foles' play in that championship game.
Yeah, we'll break down those numbers a little bit further and talk about that specifically. Nick Foles really specifically with one of our mailbag questions. But I picked Jacksonville and Minnesota. That obviously didn't happen. I don't know why anyone would be surprised, but Jacksonville was that close, man. But I don't know, and I don't really even mean to sound like a Patriot hater because I really could care less. That what they are doing. First of all, Tom Brady is the GOAT in my eyes. He's the GOAT, and I think Belichick is a mastermind. And not really necessarily a Patriots hater, but to me, honestly, this is getting a little stale in the NFL. And I'm not usually one to go that route because I love the Warriors. I love what the Warriors are going to do and possibly do for the next several years. But to me, this Patriots thing is just getting a little stale because you knew exactly what the hell was going to happen in that game. Jacksonville was going to slip up that fourth quarter. Brady was going to take over, and New England was going to come back and win. How many times do we have to see that play out?
Yeah, I knew it the whole time. I had placed money on the game, and luckily I took the money line. I didn't take the points, so the kneel on the extra point didn't cost me like it cost millions of people. But I knew the whole time I was confident, even when they were down by double digits in the fourth quarter. I knew back-to-back touchdowns were definitely possible by the Patriots. And that defense, a lot of people give them a lot of grief, but they're kind of a bend, not break defense. They're going to give up some points, but they're not going to lose the game for you. And I think you're going to see that in the Super Bowl kind of happen. They're going to give up their points, but yet when you have Tom Brady on offense, you don't have a whole lot to worry about.
But here's the thing, and I gave them a bunch of crap early in the season as they were giving up yards in bunches, but they were not giving up points. And towards the end of the season, they were actually ranked at the top of the league in points against. So, you're right. The defense was kind of bend or break, giving up a ton of yards, especially early in the season. But towards the end of the season, they weren't giving up points. And then you don't want to be in a 2-score or less game with Tom Brady going into the fourth quarter. I mean, you just got to have a bigger lead than that. And I've seen this thing play out too many times. But we'll talk about the Patriots a little bit more as we have a mailbag questions pertaining to the Patriots. But let's bring in our man from San Ann, Orlando Torres. What's going on, dude?
Hey, what's going on? How's it going, fellas?
It's good. I see. Are you still cold in San Antonio?
It's been heating up. It's been weird. By 12, it's 70. By night, it's 50, 60. So it dips, but it hasn't been freezing like it was the past week.
So let's back up a week. Who did you have in this Super Bowl? You rode with Jacksonville like I did. You missed on that one. And did you have Minnesota as well?
Yeah, I rode with Minnesota as well. And completely got both of them wrong. So, yeah, I didn't have any of those picks. I was surprised about New England, but I thought they would have gave New England a run for their money. And they did pretty good. They were leading, but going into the fourth quarter, just like you mentioned earlier, you don't want to be against the Patriots down within 2 scores or less because he just did his thing. And I think the Jacksonville, regardless of what you feel about the penalties, they just kind of fell apart towards the end.
Especially when you're in Foxborough and it's 17 against 11. We'll talk about that a little bit later if you can catch my drift. And I got a lot to talk about there because we didn't talk about something that happened in the Tennessee game the week before that we neglected to talk about on the podcast that was nuts. And for you that watch the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we'll talk about that as we break that game down too. So what do you think the Super Bowl is going to get ratings-wise? I'll be honest with you. If Jacksonville would have made the Super Bowl against Philly, or Philly has a rabid fan base, so that may be a little bit different. And Philly is like the 4th or 5th largest market in the U.S., right? So they're going to have a pretty good fan base. But if this Super Bowl was going to be Jacksonville and Minnesota, I just don't know that the ratings were going to be there. I don't know that the interest is going to be there. And to be honest with you, it would not have been a must-watch Super Bowl to me. I don't think so. But now that the Patriots did work their way back into it, and you either love the Patriots and you want to see this domination, or you hate the Patriots and you want to see them fall. So I do think it's going to have high ratings, and I do think it's probably the best scenario that could have played out for the NFL to have the Patriots in it. Dan, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you're getting the Patriots, just like you said, you love them to hate them and you hate them to love them. So, the Patriots definitely helped the NFL out by coming. And like you said, too, Philly versus Minnesota, the NFL prefers to have Philly in there. I think the Super Bowl is going to obviously be very highly rated. It's nothing about the matchup is going to detract people from watching. And another key about this Super Bowl that I think is going to bring even more people in is the halftime show. And I hate to say that as a sports fan myself, but Justin Timberlake is going to bring eyes to the television, not only because he's a superstar bringing out a new album as single and stuff dropping. So, but last time he performed, look what happened. So I think that's going to draw people in too. So whether the matchup was Jacksonville, Minnesota, I think people would still be tuning in. And a lot of it has to do with because of that halftime show.
No doubt. And I don't know if you knew this, but me and Timberlake got a lot in common. Just strikingly good looks and from the Memphis area. So, I mean, the home run is there. So NFL props and kudos to that. And Timberlake's going to be dropping a new album pretty soon. I think it may be February till the full thing is released, but he's released 1 or 2 tracks off of it so far. So a great time to even have him as he's releasing a new I don't even know why we call them albums or CDs anymore, because no one even albums went out the window a long time ago, and no one even buys CDs anymore. So what should we call it? Should we? He's going to release a new digital. I don't know. What should we call it? We got to come up with something new. It's not an album. It's not a CD.
Let's let the music industry tell us.
Oh, but I want to make some money off this, so I need to kind of patent this somehow. It's a new digital portfolio, something like that. Digital
download, digital stream, something along those lines.
Yeah. So technology has changed the world, but yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that, Dan. But I think Timberlake is a very good draw and a very neutral draw that could draw a lot of different people in and not turn off the. At the halftime show, Katy Perry took hit, and I thought Katy Perry was great a couple of years ago. I mean, she came in on a freaking 60-foot lion. That was awesome. So
it was about that Left Shark, right? And that Left Shark was like some sensation the next day.
Yeah, you never know what's going to blow up out of the halftime show, and the commercials too. So, but what do you think about the actual matchup, Orlando? I mean, is this truly the best matchup? Because the Philadelphia was killing all year long, clearly the number 1 seed pretty much all year long. Is this the best matchup that the NFL probably could have hoped for going into the playoffs?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell on the NFC side. I think it would have been pretty nice to see Minnesota in there. But you got Philadelphia led by Nick Foles, and about a week ago, you didn't feel like this would be the best matchup. I mean, he looked good this past week, but going towards the end of the season and again to Atlanta, Nick Foles didn't look too good. But it was nice to see him at least finally getting clicked on what the offense over there. So I don't know if it's the best scenario coming out of the NFC, but I mean, there's you think of from the game from 13 years ago. So, that alone built up the drama heading into Super Bowl Sunday. So, I think just that alone from the last time they met and what happened, they almost won that game too. And that was another fourth quarter comeback with Tom Brady. So it just builds the momentum even higher.
Man, there was a whole different cast of characters there. Donovan McNabb, Randy Moss. Who was the running back they had? Dan, help me.
Robert Smith?
No, Philly.
Oh, Philly.
Yeah, damn. Who was that running back?
Okay. Was it? Oh, Brian Westbrook, maybe.
Yeah, Westbrook. Yeah, that's it. It was Westbrook.
Yeah. Theo.
Man, that seems like forever ago. But yeah, I mean, have you seen the early lines, Dan? Isn't it like the highest point spread in the Super Bowl?
It started at 5.5. It's down to 5 right now. But I mean. I think the Patriots are obviously going to win. I don't think that's really going to be in question. Maybe people might second guess that, but the Patriots are going to win. But they always play in close, tight games in the Super Bowl, so that point spread is a little scary if you're gonna be taking the points. So you might want to lay the Eagles down plus the points. But I think it's going to be a close game. But I think it's going to be high scoring. But ultimately, the Patriots are going to win.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, that's the safest bet at this point. And so I got some numbers to break down. I don't know if Orlando caught this. I was really kind of honestly hoping for a Falcons-Patriots rematch if it had to be the Patriots. But I don't think Atlanta was just ready this year. I don't think that would have not lived up to the hype last year. I just don't, for whatever reason, Atlanta had Super Bowl hangover all season long. And so I don't think I'm not sure that would have been a very good matchup. New Orleans may have even been a better matchup and put up more of a fight on the NFC side than Atlanta. But I really thought Minnesota was going to do it, man. I really did. Thought that defense was super tight. And I didn't think Nick Foles was going to do what Nick Foles did. Maybe home field had something to do with it. But all of us disrespected Philadelphia. We owe all of the Philadelphia fans out there in the myfantasysportstalk.com universe a big apology, because we disrespected them so hard. Even before the playoffs started, we all said that they're going to lose their first home game, and they were actually underdogs in that first home game, right?
Yeah, both games, they were underdogs. So the first time in history, the number one seed was an underdog at home. So it's not just us disrespecting them, Vegas too. I'm still going to disrespect them because I don't think they have a chance in the Super Bowl. So prove it to me wrong the third time.
In my opinion, it would be a fairly big upset. Because I've seen this play out before. I pretty much know what's going to happen. And I mean, damn, what kind of lead did Atlanta have last year going into it? What was it?
25?
25? Late in the third quarter? That wasn't going into the fourth, was it?
No, I don't know. I mean,
but it was late in the third, midway through the third or so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But anyway, speaking of Vegas, so the numbers I was alluding to is I did some research and went back and looked at all the point spreads for every single game, weeks 1 through 17 of this NFL season. Because to me, we did the pick'ems piece all season long, and I think all these guys would agree because Dan was in last place all year long. So even the great champ was really struggling this year picking winners of football games. And I just felt like you never really knew from week to week. So I went back and did the research, and the bottom line is, and these are according to ESPN's lines that were posted by ESPN, but the favorites won 182-73 this year in the NFL regular season. So the underdogs won 73 out of 255 games, which I thought was fairly high. Again, we'd have to go back and look at the previous year's numbers. I don't really know, but that equates to the underdog winning 28.6% of the time. To me, that sounded high. Dan, your first impression was you thought it was a little low.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much parity in the NFL. And just to clarify, this is with the point spread or just outright?
Outright. Basically, I'm not including what the spread was. I'm just talking about who was the favorite. I don't care if it was by 1 point or by 35 points.
Yeah, so I mean that's
the favorite, whether you won or lost.
Yeah, okay, so that skews it a little bit. So yeah, I mean that you could definitely say that is pretty high. But like I had mentioned to you, like we were talking before the show, I'm a big wager guy, a gambler, I guess you would say, on sports. Like I mean, I'm tossing little bets down on college basketball basically every night. But during the NFL season, it scares the hell out of me to wager on the NFL games because of the volatility of it. You just don't know week to week. You can make a case for any team beating any team in any week, and that's even with the Browns.
Cleveland.
Well, I would even throw Cleveland in there. This year, obviously, it didn't work out, so put your money. But it's that's why 0-16 is so rare, is because at any given week, any team could win. So out of all the sports, it's the sport I watch probably the most. But I'm scared to actually put my money on the line and say this team is going to win, even if it's my beloved Cowboys. It's a scary thing of how volatile it is, and you see that with the parity in the playoffs every year. There's always new playoffs teams. Super Bowl, champs usually don't repeat unless you are the Patriots, but they don't repeat a whole lot. So
they never have.
There's so much parity there.
The Patriots have never repeated. That's why I didn't really give them a chance this year, because it's not what they do. But I think they're taking advantage of a really weak NFL this year to me. I just don't think the teams aren't that strong. I mean, parity, yes, but I don't think there's really any elite teams. And they're just kind of coasting, being the Patriots, swimming their way through it. Orlando was about to say something, but as we were hitting on Cleveland, I have Cleveland's number. So Cleveland was favored in one game all year long, and it was against Indianapolis by 1 point. And we know what happened there as Cleveland went 0-16. Orlando, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was going to mention that what Dan was saying, how it's kind of hard to bet on the NFL. I mean, there was a couple of times in the pick'em, John, for me and you actually picked Cleveland at least once or twice. That's just how crazy it was.
Well, I picked them 3 or 4 times because I just didn't think they were going to go 0-16. Their time was coming, and I'm sure I picked them against Indianapolis because of my disrespect of Indianapolis this year.
Yeah, I had him a couple of times. I don't remember again too, but I know I had him a couple of times, at least twice, and I didn't expect that again back to back on 16 seasons. So yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So one of the bigger numbers here is New England was the only team to be favorite every single week. Is that surprising at all?
Not really. I mean, you look at their division. They play them, total of six games, right? 2 each. So, I mean, that's automatically six games there. And I mean, you just look at the lure of New England. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by it. They probably should be favored each week. The only time they wouldn't is if they caught a hot team who doesn't have a lot of losses at home. Where the Patriots are on the road, because at home you're going to have the Patriots favored every single week.
Yeah, that Pittsburgh game could have probably been a little bit of a toss-up. But so what was the Patriots record anyway? 12-4 or 13-3?
13-3, I believe.
So they lost against the spread 3 times. But I mean, damn, if you're favored every single time, we know that's not going to work out. And so just some of the other things. One of the big things that stuck out to me, guys, and we saw the collapse of this team, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost as the favorite 5 times this year, and that was the most in the NFL. What do you think about that?
Andy Reid, I blame him. Game mismanagement.
Isn't that kind of high? I mean, you lost 5 times as the favorite.
To me, if you see a favorite lose that much, you look at the coaching, and I think we shown that in the playoffs the way Andy Reid coached the end of that game. So I would look squarely at Andy Reid for the cause of those high collapses, I guess you would say.
Another thing that stuck out to me is that AFC West. We'll stick to that. Is the AFC West lost 16 games as the favorite. So you got to think about those teams. Oakland severely disappointed. They were high up there too. They probably lost 4 or 5 of that was them, at least 5, I think. And in Kansas City, the Chargers lost several times as the favorite too, and Denver had their share of it too. So as a division, the AFC West lost 16 times all season as the favorite. Now, I know these numbers don't mean a whole lot to everybody, but I think it's interesting because I just think it shows the parity. And to be honest with you, the AFC West was a fairly weak division. That was up for grabs. That's why I picked Oakland to go to the Super Bowl, and Oakland had every chance. And then KC jumping off to the hot start, going 5-6-0, they had every chance. But I went back and looked at those numbers today, and that loss to Tennessee, Dan, and you probably know. Well, you weren't really playing in the fantasy league anymore at this time, but Kareem Hunt only ran it 11 times, whereas Derrick Henry ran it 24 times. That's why you lost.
Yeah, I mean, that was the problem all season. When Kareem Hunt was going through that lull and you were bashing him, it's just he wasn't getting the ball enough. And Andy Reid has done that in his stop in Philly before Kansas City. He just doesn't stay committed to the running game and giving his, probably his best athletic player outside of Tyreek Hill on that roster the ball more. And I think that was the ultimate downfall of the Chiefs.
Yep, I agree. Man, I don't understand that though, Dan. I just don't understand that when you're feeding him the rock so much in the first half of the season and you're winning, and then you stop doing that. And there's no excuse for Derrick Henry to have touched the ball more on the road, down 21-3, than Kareem Hunt at home, up 21-3. What? That makes no sense.
Kareem Hunt too, like at the beginning of the season, he was utilized a lot as a pass catcher. They even went away from Kareem Hunt in the pass game. I know, he had a couple of drops, but it was rare. After a while, would you even see Kareem Hunt featured in the game in a row, whether it wasn't running the ball or used as a pass catcher, he would just disappear. That wasn't on him, but it was just the way the Chiefs game planned,
which was the problem. I don't understand that. So another One of them that kind of stuck out to me, one I was really all over because I was interested in this. It just seems like I was seeing Tennessee every single week. Tennessee was favored 12 times this year, Dan. Does that surprise you a little bit to be favored 12 out of 16 weeks, the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I mean, we were both very high on Tennessee this year. I think we both had them as the AFC South champs. We thought they were going to ultimately be. To
start. But once you got about a month into the season, I changed that tune because something wasn't right.
Yeah, see, I didn't. I stuck with them. I was confident in not only the talent that they have, but Marcus Mariota. And, he struggled down the stretch. But I'm sure they had a lot of games at home, which probably helped.
And they suffered through or actually benefited from another weak division, which, Indianapolis was crap. Houston, after Deshaun Watson went down, had no chance. And then Jacksonville was the top dog, but those other two teams just weren't on the same level playing field as everybody else pretty much in the league.
Yeah. I mean, not even close. So you chalk up 4 wins, although I believe they lost to a couple of those teams. So that was probably their losses as those favorites. But yeah, I mean, I'm still high on Tennessee, although we're going to talk about them later because their off season, man, is questionable at best, I would say.
So far, unless a miracle happens, but we will talk about that. So just to wrap this up, guys, and just kind of inside some of these numbers, this is just the first few notes that stuck out to me, and one I pointed out to Dan, and this is crazy to me. This is really crazy to me, but in weeks 3 through 6, so weeks 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the NFL, it was a 50-50 split. The underdogs won half the time in that 4-week stretch, and it was every single week was about 50-50. So it wasn't like one week was skewed more than the other. Weeks 3 through 6, I guess that's kind of when the teams are really starting to figure themselves out. But the underdog won half the time in a straight month in the NFL. Does that not seem high, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely high. It's straight half. So, yeah, you never expect the underdog to win half the time. So, yeah.
30 and 30. In that month in the NFL, it was 30-30, even split. But Pittsburgh was the dog only twice against KC, which they won, and New England, which they lost. Jacksonville wasn't even a favorite until week 4. Philly was only favored 3 times in the first 6 weeks, which they didn't have a bye in the first 6 weeks either. Their bye week was week 10. So even Vegas wasn't real high on Philadelphia, which made the Super Bowl in the first month and a half of the season. Kansas City, mentioned them, they lost 5 times as the favorite. So did Denver. So there's 10 of those AFC West losses as the favorite right there. Something else I was kind of shocked by, Dan, is there was only one even line, according to ESPN, all year long, one game, and that was Denver and the Chargers in week 7. That was the only even line all year long. I thought that was kind of surprising. Indianapolis was the favorite twice all year, and they won both times. Week 5 against San Fran and week 17 against Houston. New Orleans didn't lose as the favorite until week 17 against Tampa Bay. So that's just some of the numbers. And so I just thought that was really interesting. I'm going to put all that in an article and release that probably this weekend for you guys to check out as we got kind of a lull, kind of a dead period in between before the Super Bowl. So you guys can think about that, look at that, and maybe think about your Super Bowl wagers. But the Super Bowl is a little bit different animal because you can bet on what color Gatorade is going to be dumped on Bill Belichick's head. So everything like that. So, but very interesting numbers, I thought, and look for that piece on the website coming up this weekend, myfantasysportstalk.com. So let's take a break from the Super Bowl talk and the NFL talk for just a second and dive into the NBA All-Star Game. The starters were announced. The reserves were announced. Only thing we don't know is who's actually going to be on the teams because it's a brand new format this year. Let's talk about that. You are listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. Thank you. We appreciate it. Brandon Reed here, Dan Schalk here, and Orlando Torres here. So, guys, I was pretty skeptical of this new thing that the NBA was going to try to do. But now that I've thought about it and the way this is actually breaking down, I am very intrigued by what's going to happen. Because we do have the actual list of players that are going to be joining the All-Star Game now, as we have the starters and the reserves. So it kind of breaks down like this, just real quick. Western Conference, Steph Curry. He was the leading vote getter in the West, so he's going to be a captain. But out of the West, Steph Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, those are your tagged starters. In the Eastern Conference, LeBron James is the overall top vote getter. He'll be a captain, along with in the East, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, and DeMar DeRozan. They were tagged as the starters. That's key this year, really, really key this year, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Your Western Conference reserves, Karl Anthony Towns, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Russell Westbrook. Your Eastern Conference reserves are Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Love, Al Horford, Kyle Lowry, Bradley Beal, John Wall, and Victor Oladipo. So let's first start with the starters and reserves themselves and maybe talk about snubs. Were you happy with the actual selections, Orlando? You got a boy in there. I don't know what's happening with Kawhi, but you got one boy in there. But anyway, from all the announcement of the starters, reserves, and then who was left out, were you surprised by anything, or is this pretty much fell in line to what you think probably should happen based on the first half of the NBA season?
I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised because it is fan favorited, with the votes and the way the voting system works. But I think it was a bit surprising to see some of the big names like Paul George not in there. Even Ben Simmons, I think, deserved to be in there, even if it was a reserve. He's been really great for the Sixers, and the way Dragic has been doing for the Heat. So it was a bit disappointing to see the way that works, but the way it goes with only those 24 guys in there. It was a bit surprising and disappointing to see those guys not make the cut.
And I don't know if y'all guys heard the comments from Carmelo Anthony saying that when we came here, we knew it was going to be a sacrifice, a full-on sacrifice. And I think he was kind of speaking for Paul George too. As when you join an elite team, join forces like that, then you're going to be sacrificing some personal glory. Well, I'll follow it up and just say, Carmelo, you weren't going to make it anyway. Paul George made some sacrifices, but he still had numbers close. But that West is just stacked now. That's the sacrifice you made. Both of you guys went from the East to the West, so you're both screwed. But yeah, I thought that was a little bit funny. Carmelo, you got moved to the bench, dude. You didn't have a chance. So if you want to speak for Paul George, yeah, Paul George may have made some sacrifices, but I don't know. Dan, what did you think about? Well, just tell me if you think anyone got snubbed that should have been there, or should anyone's place have got taken?
Yeah, it's tough because it is so stacked, but I look at a guy that I reap the benefits from every night, and that's Lou Williams. He's having a career year this year, and I thought he would deserve to be in. But you look at the West and the guards and some of the names that didn't get in and who is in, it's tough to say, yeah, Lou Williams, but that's based off name value. If you look at actual numbers, the numbers he's putting up 23 points, 5 assists, shooting 41% from three. His numbers are insane this year, especially compared to what they used to be. He's the main man in LA right now. So I was surprised he didn't get in, but it was kind of tough to see that. And I don't watch a lot of Cavaliers basketball, but I always hear the hate towards Kevin Love. So to see him make it over some of the other names, like a Ben Simmons, I was kind of surprised by that. I don't really see him too much of an all-star. He's kind of a back wheel on now what is a bad team. So I was kind of surprised by his selection as well.
But he does put up numbers. The numbers are there to justify putting him in as well. You can make an argument for someone else, but he does put up the numbers as someone who reaps the benefits from him on their fantasy team. But another guy I thought you were going to go with, Dan, is where you were going with that. I thought you were going with that as another guy you're reaping the benefits off of. Is my boy in Memphis, and he was at the bottom of my list. Just kind of put it in there, as a sentimental favorite. But Tyreke Evans, dude, he has been the savior and MVP
of a terrible team.
Yeah. But to me, he's been much more valuable than Marc Gasol. If Marc Gasol would have had an argument, then I would say Tyreke Evans has more of an argument. So, K-Love is putting up 18.4, 9.4 boards per game.
Not good.
18-10. I don't know. But yeah, Tyreek has been the savior there. So I don't know. But I was with Orlando. Ben Simmons was a pretty big shock to me because I thought he was really been a very impressive player over the first half of the season. Numbers to boot. I think Devin Booker may have had a chance. You want to talk about someone else killing, kind of like Tyreek Evans on a really bad team? That'd be Devin Booker. Of course, Lou Williams, Chris Paul just missed too many games due to injury. Kemba Walker may have had on your Charlotte Hornets, Dan, may have had a slight argument. Nikolai Jokic, Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin. I guess Blake Griffin missed too much time too. So I don't know. You don't think Kemba should have made it, Dan? He didn't have an argument.
Yeah, no, I mean he's balling out right now. I'm more interested to see if the Hornets are going to deal him at the deadline, like they're supposedly looking to do. But yeah, I mean he's been balling out for him. I don't think Dwight Howard did he make it in? I mean he's been putting up great numbers as well. So there's a lot of that Hornets team is flying under the radar. They had a bad stretch when Steve Clifford was out and to start the year, and now they've been hot lately. Just looking at the lines, I mean they've been. You want to talk about betting lines? They've been the favorite and double-digit favorites over some pretty solid teams lately. So Vegas is pretty high on the Hornets right now.
They're still out of the playoff hunt though by quite a bit, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's actually who made it. In case you forgot, the way the NBA All-Star Game is going to take place this year, as I mentioned, the favorite are captains. You got LeBron James, who is the number one vote getter overall, and then you have Steph Curry in the West, who I guess was second or top in the West. So they're going to be team captains, and so LeBron's going to go first, and they're going to pick from all these guys. They're going to pick their starters first out of that group of eight other guys. And it's like a pickup game at your local park. So that got me thinking that could get nasty, guys. I think it's going to be entertaining. To me, all-star games of all variety are pretty much played out. I know that I've ever watched a Pro Bowl, probably never will. And to me, I usually don't even watch the NBA All-Star Game anymore. I'll tell you why that is, though. It's usually on Sunday nights late now. I don't know what that happened. When I was a kid, I remember the NBA All-Star Game being at 3, 4, maybe 5 in the afternoon. Now they moved it to damn near 8 o'clock. I don't really care at that point. My weekend is over. I'm not going to watch it. But this does add some intrigue factor to it, in my opinion, because some feelings might get hurt. What you guys think about it?
I like the premise of the idea, but and I saw somebody you were chatting with earlier today that I completely agree with. Why isn't it televised? You know what?
That's the part that's I'm a little skeptical about that.
To me, it's like the NBA draft lottery. You know, how are they going to fix this? So
that would have been gold in television. This and feelings may have got hurt, but this would have been gold in television. I would have watched this, but probably not the game itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm kind of turned off by it because of that. And the other, just the point where feelings might not get hurt. What I don't like about the NBA, and you hear all these old school players, all these old school NBA players talk about it. Everybody's friends now. You know, they all hang out in the off season. They train together, party together. They hang out no matter what team you're really on. So while there are some, rivalries and some players don't like each other, for the most part, I think people just kind of, get along. They know they're NBA players. This is an all-star game. So I think they're going to make more fun out of it. And that's one thing that I hate about the NBA All-Star Game. It's not competitive at all. But I mean, the intrigue is there.
That could make it more of a delicate situation, though, Dan, because you might not want to piss somebody off that might be your future teammate that you're thinking about trying to bring to your team. It's complicated now, and I don't know. I like it. It's very intriguing. But so anyway, they're going to go through them. It's going to be LeBron, Steph, LeBron, Steph, LeBron, Steph. They're going to go through and pick, back to back to back like that until all these players are chosen. The starters must go first. The other 8 starters must go first, and then all your reserves. So some of the scenarios I got to thinking about. So LeBron has the very first pick. What if he picks Kevin Durant? What if LeBron picks all of the Warriors, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson? what if he snubs Kevin Love? What if Steph Curry snubs one of his Warrior teammates? I mean, this could get very interesting. I don't know. That's why I wish it was kind of televised, because I could see some of the plan formulation, because this is what I'd really like. Say LeBron, I'd like them all in a room, and it's tough to do during the middle of the season, but I'd like them all in a room, do it like almost real draft style. LeBron steps up the podium and says, I'm going to draft Kevin Durant. So Kevin Durant comes up on the stage, and then they go to the side and they have their own huddles. Like, who are we going to pick next? Kind of like a pickup game in basketball. Now, that would cause some intrigue, and that would be very entertaining to me. But you also have the Russ situation. Is it possible for Russ and KD to end up on the same team, or are they going to end up on opposite teams? There's a lot of scenarios here that could be very, very intriguing, as you could have teammates playing on opposite sides of each other. So what do you think about it, Orlando? Does it help or hurt?
I think it helps, but I think it hurts in a way, because I understand and I respect what they're doing. But, you look at the East starters, you look at the West, all the way down to the reserves. I know football had a similar thing, but it just makes it seem as if, they made it a different stipulation or formula like this, so like the East doesn't get completely smashed by the West with how stacked it is. That's how one thing I took it as. That doesn't mean it's completely true, but I took it like that. But I mean, it'll still be interesting to see who these guys pick. I prefer the All-Star game rather than watching the Pro Bowl. It is. I know it's not competitive at all. It's more fun, but I'm intrigued to see what happens. I do wish it was televised too.
So
I can
supposedly,
already imagine Kevin Love getting probably picked last, which just seems horrible.
looking at it, yeah, maybe. No, does Bradley Bill possess more firepower to your team than Kevin Love? Maybe. I don't know. Klay Thompson, he's really just a shooter, so I think he may be low in the totem pole as well. But it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. I just wish it was televised. But anyway, I think the whole thing is supposed to play out tomorrow and supposed to be announced on Friday. So by the time the podcast is published, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be announced, I think, on TNT tomorrow night, Thursday night, January 25th. So by the time the podcast comes out, you're going to know.
It'll be interesting to see if LeBron will choose Kyrie to be on his team.
That's another one I was thinking about. Will LeBron pick Kyrie? I don't think so. I really don't.
I don't think so. Then it'll be interesting to see how far Steph will let him drop if he's not looking at Kyrie right away.
Yeah, great point. That's another
that would be some great TV. The NBA totally missed out on this.
They really did. And I don't know if they're just worried about hurting some feelings, but let them get hurt. These men are grown-ass men making a hell of a lot of money, and they need to put their egos aside. Or maybe that's your ego is going to take some damage when you make that much money from time to time. Okay? So get over it. But they missed a golden opportunity. But the way I would like to see it done, like I said, the coming up on the stage, then, the group huddling, like, I think we need so-and-so now. That would have been awesome, but that'll never happen in the middle of the season because you got other commitments, and they're actually still in the middle of the season, which we got a few weeks until the actual All-Star game anyway. So, and this is something you got to get announced and got to get out there. So, but I don't know, maybe you take a little hiatus, maybe NBA scheduling gods next year. Maybe you take a weekend off and you get this done on the weekend, have it on a Saturday night on TNT, and that would be huge. I would love it. And ratings would be through the roof. Win-win to me. Because like I said, I would probably watch that and not the actual game, because it's kind of like our NFL fantasy drafts. I love the draft. The draft to me a lot of times is more fun than actually playing through the season, particularly this year, because it didn't go so well at all. But that's part of the fun. We'll see.
You talking about the fantasy draft that in the league that I won? That one?
Let's see what's next. Yeah, champ. Yeah. That one.
I was just clarifying.
Yeah.
Sure.
You knew. Moving on. So, is there anybody in the NBA? Since we're gonna talk fantasy real quick, Dan, in another league you think you're gonna win, NBA fantasy. Anybody out there that has been really big surprises to you, or just disappointments altogether out of the NBA fantasy in your league, or if you play daily? And Orlando, before we came on the air, I was telling Dan, man, I've been taking a beating in the daily fantasy, man. I was doing good over the holidays, but lately I've just been taking a beating. So it's not been fun, but Orlando, other than Kawhi Leonard, which we'll get into in just a little bit, any surprises, disappointments out there in the NBA fantasy world this year so far?
In the fantasy world, like Joel Okafor. I know, he's been having some bad luck, with the injuries. He's come back, but I was I was surprised and looking forward to him returning. I know it takes a process. He's not going to get back right away to full speed, to his full form. But I was hoping of a bit of for him to reamp himself, especially in fantasy. I had picked him up as soon as I saw him available, and I couldn't afford a move like that. Just depending on the seating, right? Depending on the seating and the roster construction, and he still hasn't kept it up. So he's been a bit of a disappointment, and that was one guy I was hoping would help in fantasy, especially for a late season pickup when you kind of hoping for a lottery ticket like that.
One guy I was just looking at who to me has been one of the bigger surprises for me is Victor Oladipo. I never really questioned that he had all the ability, but he went to Indiana as sort of this point guard, point shooting guard, and is just turning it up. He's just killing it fantasy. So he's been one of the more surprises to me this fantasy season. Slotting him right now, he's probably I can't really count this up right now, but he's probably about, in our league, he's averaging 46 fantasy points a game. So he's about 12, 13 in that range right there. So pretty big surprise. He's actually ahead of Kyrie Irving and Karl Anthony Towns, Ben Simmons, Devin Booker. So it's been a pretty big surprise to me. Dan, any real big surprise or disappointment?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned him earlier, Lou Williams. He kind of came out of nowhere this year in fantasy, and he's a guy that was kind of a fringe roster spot. I picked him in the last few rounds in our league, and he's a guy I can't live without right now. The way he's putting up numbers, a disappointment. Of course, he's on Brandon Reed's roster right now. Markelle Fultz. It's a guy that I also drafted. He played a couple games, couldn't shoot the ball more than like a foot, and he hasn't played since. And there's rumors of him coming back, but there's still reports out there that he's a terrible shooter. He completely lost his shot, which, I mean, you never hear of that, of a number one pick just losing his shot and doesn't know how to shoot the ball anymore. So he's been a major surprise, not only in fantasy, but, being a number one overall pick, you expect to see some type of production. A couple other names on that same Indiana team as a disappointment is Lance Stevenson. He doesn't get a lot of run, but when made that trade, when the Pacers made that trade last year, they gave him some meaningful minutes, and he did well with those minutes, putting up some decent points back to his, hitting in all types of categories, points, rebounds, assists. And this season, while he doesn't get a lot of playing time, he's not doing much with the playing time that he's getting. So he's kind of a disappointment for me this year.
Another one I was looking at is, I don't know if this is necessarily just a huge disappointment, and this guy has been dealing with some injuries through most of the last probably couple of months or so, but a lot of people probably drafted this guy pretty high, and that's Rudy Gobert, and he has not lived up to it. But let me actually see real quick. In our league, Rudy Gobert was drafted in our league in the second round. So if you drafted him in the second round, you've been severely disappointed. I think Dan, you were high on him. Did you not? You had him last year, didn't you?
Last year I did, and he helped me win the title. I'll just say that, and I'm glad I didn't take him this year by the sounds of it.
Yeah, part of it's injury. A lot of it's injury, but That's a guy that was really high up there. He was one of those big men who you thought would just put up killer numbers like a Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, he was right there, right? Top 5 in centers, Hassan Whiteside, someone in that realm. Joel Embiid, he was right there. No less than like 6 or 7, ranked as far as big man. Brandon Ingram's been a little bit of a disappointment to me. When you let Kyle Kuzma come in as a rookie and be the team's leading scorer, does Brandon Ingram have it, guys? Is he going to turn that corner? I know it's only his second year, but is he going to turn that corner? He just doesn't seem to have that oomph,
I think he's going to be a late bloomer. I don't know how great he's going to get, but he has a definite chance to be a solid starter, all-star in this league. But I mean, you look at his frame. You say yes, he's the Kevin Durant. He's not going to be Kevin Durant. I think he needs to still add some size to him so he can hang, kind of add some inside punch to his game, and I think it will develop. But he is still so young, coming out as a freshman. So I think you just need to give it time. But he has that potential. The potential's still there. How
much better is Ben Simmons than Brandon Ingram?
Yeah, a lot. A lot. Yes, I'll just say that. A lot.
Yeah.
So you agree, Orlando?
Yeah, no, a lot better. Yeah, he's way better.
What were they drafted last year? Simmons was 1. How far down was Ingram? Was he 2, 3, 4? What was it? I don't really remember.
It was 2, I thought. I thought he was right after.
No, that's what I was thinking. I just didn't quite remember. Yeah. So yeah, Philadelphia, it paid off, I think, keeping him out that year. Now if Joel Embiid can just get over his back issues and play 85% of the time, then Philadelphia would be packing quite a punch and get their number 1 pick overall in the draft this year, which I'd really appreciate because my fantasy team is slipping. Got 3 point guards on the shelf right now with Mike Conley, Markelle Fultz, and Lonzo Ball, which is not helping my cause. Plus I played Anthony Davis and now DeMarcus Cousins in back-to-back weeks in our fantasy league. And they just coincidentally decided to share the workload. And Anthony Davis said last week will be my turn, and this week is DeMarcus Cousins' turn. What DeMarcus Cousins put up, 104 fantasy points on me the other night? One game.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
LOL.
The best game since, and probably the only game since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar putting up, 44, 24, and like 10 assists? Ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, ridiculous numbers. These are video games numbers, yeah.
You put the article out, right, Orlando?
Yeah, it was like first time a performance like that, like in, I think, 40 years. And he had a similar styling to Malone, which was like 20-something years ago. But his stat line that he put up has been seen since the 70s. It was a ridiculous. I watched that game, actually, and I was like, wow. To see him play so good. And a big man like that, he doesn't really shoot from behind the arc, from 3-line. He was knocking down those too. So, kind of rare performance, great performance, and people who watch it was a really great game, and they just kept feeding him. And his performance was so good that Anthony Davis had a monster game himself too, and no one was even talking about Anthony Davis. He almost put up 40 points himself, but it was just about the performance that Cousins put up. It just overshadowed everything, and plus they got the win, which helped them.
I'm surprised that team can share the fantasy load so much, because if you look at Drew Holiday's numbers, outstanding. Even Rajon Rondo as the backup point guard is putting up fairly consistently good numbers, and E'Twaun Moore, who I had on my team forever, was putting up really good numbers. So, I mean, it's amazing that team can put up so much fantasy value in one game. They just, I don't know, everything clicks. Everything clicks. They're all working well. I mean, I think if you would have tried to draft in your fantasy leagues that whole team of Drew Holiday, Rajon Rondo, Anthony Davis, you would have never got Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. But if you could have got, 3 or 4 of those pieces, or so say 3 of those 4, say 4 of those 5, either Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins, and Drew Holiday and Rajon Rondo and E'Twaun Moore, you're putting up pretty good fantasy games on the nights when New Orleans does play. But we got a New Orleans questions coming from that Pelicans fan I told you about a little bit later. So we'll get into that. So enough of the fantasy talk, enough of the all-star game talk. Like I said, by the time this podcast is out, you'll kind of know who's on whose team, and I cannot wait to see who snubbed who. Is LeBron going to diss Kyrie? Is LeBron? If I'm LeBron, I'm trying to get all those Warriors and try to prove a point to Steph Curry. Like, yeah, look what I can do with these guys. That would be amazing if LeBron winds up with KD, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson, and maybe Steph counters with Kyrie, Giannis Antetokounmpo, something like that. Maybe just totally flip-flops. We don't know what we're going to see. Completely not East versus West anymore. So very intriguing. We'll see what happens when that is announced tomorrow night on TNT, Thursday night, January 25th. What we're going to do next is jump into that big bag of mailbag questions, the My Fantasy Podcast questions submitted by you guys. You are listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsDog.com. I am Brandon Reed. Dan Chalk is here, and Orlando Torres is here. The whole crew, the trio, the three amigos. So we're going to jump into these mailbag questions. And this week, we got a foodie question coming up. Just chill out. I know you guys are probably writing your new foodie questions already, but we'll answer this week's version coming up soon. We'll save that towards the back end of the show. But for the rest of it, we're just going to go through these questions as submitted. No particular order by sport or anything like that. So the first one comes from Wesley Forbes. Do you buy the Pats got gifted another Super Bowl by the lack of penalties called against them versus the Jags? And did you see the refs celebrating their victory? Ridic. Wesley Forbes. And so, yes, I saw it, Wesley. And yeah, I saw the crazy non-catch versus Pittsburgh by Jesse James. I'll keep harping on it because to me it was a catch all day long. Can't believe someone that, like Dan Chalk, a Dallas Cowboys fan, that happened with him and Des Bryant would not be on my side here. But anyway, then the Buffalo thing the next week. And then here's what I wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about last week, and Dan didn't want to bring it up because he was riding that Patriots bandwagon, is did you see the mystery second at the end of the half of the Titans game?
Yeah, no, that thing went viral. Everybody saw it.
That was ridiculous. Who caught the pass? Chris Hogan? Somebody, I don't remember. But anyway, the dude was barely down on the ground, and the clock was already at a second, and the New England clock operator stopped the clock at a second, 3 or 4 seconds premature. No way they should have got that play off. Gostkowski did end up missing the kick. Thankfully, I guess. I never want to root against a Memphis guy, but hey, how about that too, Dan? The 2 Memphis kickers in the Super Bowl. You like that?
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yes. How about that? Bet on that. Bet on that. That's never happened before. Promise you. Stephen Gostkowski and Josh Elliott. I think it's Josh, right? Jake or Josh?
Jake.
Anyway, yeah. Is Jake Elliott? Okay, well, my disrespect from my Memphis alum there. But anyway, yeah, 2 Memphis kickers going head-to-head in the Super Bowl. But anyway, dudes was not even really on the ground yet, and the clock was already at a second. So I don't know how the clock operator didn't. I mean, it was like they added like 3 or 4 seconds by that pause before you saw the Patriots players coming in and calling the timeout. Dan, do you want to address that? Be honest now. Be honest. There was some shady stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's more on the clock operator, not on the refs. And let's just add in that, I mean, the Patriots dominated that game, won by double digits, multiple scores. So I'm not really worried about 1 second at the end of a half where they ended up missing a field goal.
But it benefited the Patriots. And yes, the referees could have done something about that. They review every other thing. Why not? I mean, someone didn't catch that.
This is salt I'm dropping.
I really don't care. It's just unfair, and I see these things every single week benefiting the Patriots. Why is that? I didn't see any crazy calls in the Philadelphia-Minnesota game. I didn't see any crazy calls in Atlanta versus Philly. I didn't see any crazy calls in Tennessee versus Kansas City, unless you want to talk about the crazy Mariota play, but that wasn't a call. And by the way, did he get double fantasy points for that? Did he? Because I know in the stat book, he got a passing TD and a reception TD. So if you're playing fantasy, which all the fantasy seasons were over, but would he have got 12 points from that one play?
Yes. Well, maybe not 12 because passing touchdowns might be 4. But
okay, but he got double the points.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. But anyway, I clearly see it is calls benefiting the Patriots. And that's something, if you're going to review everything like they do and spend all this time, that's unacceptable. That really is unacceptable. And they do it in other games. I've seen it before, going back to review the clock. I mean, seriously, the clock was like -3 when the Patriots finally got that timeout call. I don't care about the outcome of the game. That's just, it's not right. It's unfair. And then you want to take away minute little catches because the guy bobbles the ball a little bit when he hits the end zone after catching it, turning and diving in the end zone. But you're going to give the Patriots an extra 3 or 4 seconds before the. I don't know. What's Wesley talking about here? Oh, yeah, the refs celebrating too. Come on, guys. When do you see that crap? They were the first one to congratulate the Patriots and Tom Brady.
Sportsmanship.
Orlando.
No, I saw that too. I don't know what to say.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that in my life. It shouldn't be allowed. I mean, it's a clear red flag.
I will say, I mean, you do got to appreciate greatness when it's there. Outside of those calls on the refs, because year after year, the Patriots, they just keep on doing it. Belichick and Brady, they always find a way to get there. But after a while, seeing all this stuff, it's crazy as it seems. It does make me believe that, maybe there's a little something going on outside of the football part. The refs celebrating, yes, at that time clock, some certain calls favoriting them. I think that's what the people tend to root against the Patriots instead of their winning ways. So it's crazy. I did see that though.
Well, and another one, I'm not really sure that it was targeting this specifically, but what about the call against Jalen Ramsey? That was a clear play on, guys. Both of them were pushing and shoving all the way down the field. In that point in the game, give me a break, guys. That gifted the Patriots the game.
That was a clear penalty in my eyes. I mean, he was all over him. All over him.
There was as much pushing and shoving. The only sin that he committed was maybe not turning his head back in time for the ball. But I don't know if you saw the ball in the replay. Well, I know you didn't see the ball in the replay because it was way over the head of all of them. So you got to let that go. You got to let that go. That's ridiculous. That's just football at that point. You're really being ticky-tacky at that point to make that call. That's ridiculous. It wasn't enough there. It wasn't enough there. If you're going to call that, you can call a penalty on every single game. Or, every single play. Like they said, you can call a holding really on every single play if you really want to.
Yeah, definitely. If there's penalties being committed, you call a flag. Throw the flag. I mean, that's pretty simple to me. I don't think it was as close of a non-call as you think. I see completely different stuff when I look at it. So I'm not going to fight with you about it, but that was a penalty.
Was the ball even catchable? Was the ball even catchable?
I would have to go back and look. But
no, it wasn't.
My original thought, yes. Like when I was watching it
when
live.
You go back and watch those replays, you're not going to see the ball, Dan, because it wasn't catchable. You may see a shadow.
Back. He was arm locking.
A shadow.
Blocking his arm. He had his arm held.
He was barely tiptoeing the sidelines. Who was the receiver anyway? Was it Cooks?
Jalen Ramsey.
Was it Cooks? No. Anyway, I think he would have probably been ineligible. He was tiptoeing the sideline, and maybe he stepped out of bounds. I don't know. Let's go back and look at the replay.
All those pushes from Jalen Ramsey probably knocked him out. Yeah,
they were both pushing. They were both pushing.
Yeah,
all the way down the field. Oh, like I said, the only reason Ramsey got that call is because he didn't turn his head back around in time. He did it the last second when you see the shadow of the ball going over their head, but he didn't do it in time, and that's the only sin he committed. But still, I'm swallowing the whistle. At that point in the game, you know that's huge. You know that's a game changer. Let them play, man. Let them play.
Not turning your head around is a pass interference. I mean, it's if you're looking at the rule book, that's pass interference.
If the ball is completely catchable. I mean, I don't know. If both of them are pushing and you're saying that Ramsey pushing Cook, it was Cooks, right? Was that the intended receiver?
Arm locked. He had his arm locked. He was holding his hand, basically.
No. And if you're saying that that's the reason the ball was not catchable, then I'm saying that they were both pushing and shoving. So you got to let that go. So it's a huge call, a bad time, and it favored the Patriots once again. So I'm with Wesley Forbes, man. I saw it. Ridic. Dan may not say ridic, but I say ridic.
When Tom Brady misses a game, you can say ridic.
Ridic. Okay. We'll move on. But yes, I saw it, Wesley, and it's ridic. Ridic. Let's move on to the next football question. Is Nick Foles a good QB? His numbers say so. This is from Terrence Mbamba. So, who wants to go first?
I mean, he's a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's not going to be a good enough quarterback to win the Super Bowl.
He's not better than Case Keenum, that's for sure.
I mean, the performance of getting the team to the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously, I doubt he's going to be with the Eagles next season. But I mean, he's a good quarterback. Yes, he could perform okay. He's been there for a while. He's getting comfortable with the offense. He spent some time there. So I'm not going to say Nick Foles is a horrible quarterback because he's not. To answer the question, but I mean, in simple terms like that, yeah, he's a pretty good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's a great quarterback, but he's a pretty good quarterback.
I was just trying to get Orlando riled up with the Case Keenum comment. I do not think that Case Keenum is better than Nick Foles. Nick Foles is a pretty good quarterback and will probably be playing on a different team next season. But yeah, of course, I think he's a good quarterback. They won more games in the playoffs than all of us predicted, and now they're in the Super Bowl. And let's talk about those numbers against Minnesota. What was it? Let's see, I had 26 of 33 for 352 yards and 3 scores against Minnesota. I don't care where that game was played. Yeah, that's doing it. That is doing your job at a very high level. So it's crazy that they seem to have a pretty much wealth of talent. But is Foles one of these guys that's going to play better as a backup with almost no pressure from time to time than if you were to give him the full keys to the car and full reign of the offense and say, you're now our guy, or is he going to kind of choke up like Matt Castle did several years ago?
Yeah, I would definitely be worried about that if I was, an NFL GM this offseason committing to Nick Foles as my starting quarterback. Not only would you have to commit to him, but you would have to trade assets to get him because he's still under contract with the Eagles. So I wouldn't want to go out there on a limb, give up draft picks for Nick Foles, and then say this is my starting quarterback that we're going to rely in, week out. His numbers,
not even if you're Cleveland?
No, not even close. Not any team. I think he's a serviceable. I think he's a great backup quarterback and a serviceable starting quarterback if you need to have him as a starter. But I wouldn't. I'm still a little leery. I mean, we've seen he had one great year in Philly under Chip Kelly. But then the next year when he was a starter for part of the year, I mean, his numbers, that was his worst season as a pro besides the following year when he was in St. Louis with Jeff Fisher. So when he was given that starter, like the keys are yours, he hasn't performed. But in cases where he stepped in as a backup and then had to lead the team, that's where he's been successful. So I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I would put him in that Trent Dilfer mold. He can win the Super Bowl if his defense, carries him on the back. But I don't think you're going to see Nick Foles make a play in this Super Bowl that puts the Eagles over the top of Tom Brady and the Patriots. If the last decade, it's always been a great superstar quarterback is what you need to win a Super Bowl. I still believe in that. You can say yes, defense too, but I still say that quarterback is more valuable. And I wouldn't want to trust Nick Foles in that type of situation.
Unless you have a killer defense, which Philadelphia's defense is pretty good.
Yep.
Joe Flacco did it just 3 years ago. Joe Flacco's not really an elite quarterback. So, I mean, it does happen. It has happened.
But he's paid like a quarterback, too.
Plus, Joe Flacco, on that season, they went on the road all those games, and he went to perform against quarterbacks like Brady and Manning, rather than Foles had the comfort of being at home. And you didn't really see that until the Minnesota performance, because Atlanta could have clearly won the game, especially with Philadelphia, given with those 4 fumbles.
What even happened to Wentz? I don't even remember now. Was it ACL?
ACL. Yep.
The ACL.
So, I mean, you want to try to keep that asset in Foles in case something happens health-wise with Carson Wentz next year and have that killer backup who has already proven it can take you to the Super Bowl? Or do you trade him for more assets? I mean, I just think I kind of disagree with Dan a little bit. I think there's teams out there that are almost might be worth a risk because he has a track record now. I mean, he's been in the league producing at some sort of level off and on for going on, 4 or 5 years now. So, I mean, some teams like Cleveland that are just bouncing between quarterback and quarterback. Wouldn't you rather have that, just at least that comfort, or that safety blanket of knowing, okay, well, at least I ain't got to worry about my quarterback now. Is he the greatest? Is he a Pro Bowler? No, but at least I don't have to worry about my quarterback right now. Let's build around that. And I don't know.
Yeah,
I
don't see Nick Foles as that type of quarterback. You don't have to worry about him. Like if he's your starter in Cleveland, I mean, look at when the Rams traded for him. He threw 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in his 8 games that he was allowed to start before he was benched. So he's been given the keys before, and it hasn't been successful. So if I'm Cleveland, I wouldn't just say I don't have to worry about him because he can suck. And
but on that Rams team, that's not a long enough leash, and you don't give them 7 games on a bad team. You let it go. That's what I'm saying. He needs to finally be in the situation and ride through it. Whether it's 7-10 or 10. I mean, look at Mariota this year, 13-8. I mean, if it wasn't Mariota, he probably should have been yanked. Agree or disagree?
Yeah. I mean, you look at the draft stock and the salary, and he was the 2nd overall pick, and he's in a franchise. But you've also, I mean, before this season, every year that he's been in the league, he's had, you can see it. He passes the eye test. Nick Foles, for the first time to me, passed the eye test in the conference championship game. But I don't know if a lot of you guys looked at it. I was watching the Minnesota defensive backs. I don't know if they just came out flat, but they were getting beaten on double moves constantly throughout the game, and they just didn't look like they were playing the way they usually play. Don't want to discredit Nick Foles too much because he was the one that did it. Doug Peterson's scheme, they were able to do it, but that Minnesota defense just was not themselves. Harrison Smith, I kept seeing over and over again getting, biting in on play action, getting beat on double moves, and it cost him. I didn't see Harrison Smith do that all season. And he does it in the conference championship game. So I think they were overlooking the Eagles a little bit, and that led to that offensive display that you saw Nick Foles put on.
Off topic real quick while I'm thinking about it, but Ryan Tannehill, is he coming back as the starter for the Dolphins next year? No question guaranteed?
Yes.
And what happens to Jay Cutler? He's going to be the new voice in the Monday Night Football booth?
Yeah, I mean, you might see a team feel sorry for him. Or his wife will pay them off to hire him. That could be. But he might play, but I don't think it's going to be with the Dolphins.
I'm not sure if Tannehill's going to bounce back because I think he's been kind of up and down too. Interesting. A lot of stuff to shake out, especially in the world of the quarterbacks. I just think Nick Foles is probably worth a gamble. I'm not talking about giving up a whole lot, but some of these teams going through quarterback carousel, I mean, Nick Foles is probably worth the gamble to me, especially after just what he's done. And we'll see what happens in the Super Bowl. So, Dan, I got a question from Nick Pertins. Or you actually got a question from Nick Pertins. You told me about it, but we got a question from Nick Pertins. Before we get into that, we're going to go back to Nick Pertins' question and request last week, which was, can we spotlight a draft prospect every week on the podcast? At least kind of give the folks at home a little bit more a look and kind of a precursor, sort of a preview of draft preps going forward before the draft, obviously. And so we got 3 months now, so we're in plenty of time here. But so let's do that with your draft profile that came out today with Vita Vea. And spotlight Vita Vea today. Dan, go ahead, run through it.
Yeah, I have a huge man crush on Vea. To me, he's the number 1 overall prospect in this entire draft, and I feel confident saying that. I was able to sit down, and over the last couple of weeks, I've watched every single game that he played at Washington in his 3-year career, and he's a special talent. You don't see guys his size. He's 6'5", 340. He's got nimble feet, can move laterally with ease, but he's powerful, and his block shedding capabilities are absolutely off the charts. He was double teamed about 50% of the time playing against the run and pass this year at Washington, and he handled that very well. He knows how to take on the double teams, beat it, slide in, and his hands are just so strong. You can literally see him on tape Look at the UCLA game this year where he just demolished Josh Rosen on a consistent basis, but he was double teamed and he was just throwing the off defender with one hand off of him and then ripping and bull rushing through to get to the quarterback. He had multiple hits and sacks on Josh Rosen in that game. But the other thing that kind of sets him apart is versatility. At Washington this season, he played 308 snaps at defensive tackle, 116 snaps at nose tackle, and 108 snaps at defensive end. So you can line him up anywhere on the line, and he can make an impact. So his versatility is kind of what sets him apart and why I have him so high. In all of his games, it was hard for me to find consistent weaknesses. The biggest thing that I can see is in his pass rush, he only uses the bull rush. So he's going to need some time with the defensive line coach to work on a little bit more finesse moves to be able to add maybe a swim or a spin. With his size, I'm still confident that he can do it because of his footwork. So if he can add some more finesse pass rush moves, he can be more dominant against the pass. He's a big run stopper right now. You're not going to get by him. You can't put two guys on him and expect to move him. So he's going to make an impact in the run game. And throughout his career, he still had that pass rush ability, but it was all with that bull rush. In the NFL, you can't really do that. So I'm very high on him. I compared him to a Haloti Ngata. That's my NFL comp for him, but he is better than Haloti Ngata right now as a soon-to-be rookie. Than Haloti Ngata was at any point in his career. So I absolutely love Vea. Number one on our big board. I expect him to go in the top 10, but he's probably not going to go first overall. I don't think a lot of big boards will have him at number one, but I've just fallen in love with what I've seen and his work ethic, his high motor. I think his potential is there to become a great player. I'm saying an all-pro. I'm never going to say a Hall of Famer when you're just watching somebody's college tape, but he has that potential and that upside that I absolutely love. And I've just put on his tape at night while my lovely fiance watches The Bachelor, and I just watch Vea because it's fun to watch.
She watches Tia and you watch Vea?
Yeah, I mean, I sneak a look when Tia's on. Tia from Wiener, Arkansas, shout out. You're still alive in there. I don't know if that's a big story out by you, Brandon, but
we've already. Some of us already know what happened, so keeping that under the hat.
Sure.
Keep watching, though. Keep watching.
But yeah, back to Vea. I love him. Whatever team gets him is going to get an instant stud starter that can play the 1, the 3, the 5 technique along that defensive front, and he's going to make it happen.
So, but why not Cleveland, Dan? I mean, what do you do if you're Cleveland? Seriously, wouldn't this be the biggest home run? I mean, are we going to do a quarterback again? Are you going to do Saquon Barkley and not really have any protection or any other pieces around him?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I think that's probably where Cleveland's going to go. Whether it's Barkley 1 or Barkley at 4, I think Barkley's going to go to Cleveland unless maybe the Giants take him at 2. And then I think you're going to see that other pick probably get a quarterback. Hugh Jackson wants a quarterback there that he can groom, that he's going to have a franchise guy, whether that's Josh Allen, who's my number 1 quarterback. Watching some Senior Bowl practice today, I wasn't that impressed with him, although, his tape is what I like. Or it's a Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. There's going to be options there, but yeah, I mean, Cleveland, I don't see them. They took Danny Shelton pretty high, who was Vea's teammate at Washington.
I mean, didn't they take Kaiser like 17 last year? I mean, it was fairly high, right?
Second round, yeah.
Okay, but I mean, come on now.
Kaiser's not the answer, and I think they know that. I wrote an article midway through the season that the Browns need to bench Kaiser for his future potential in the NFL. I think they've ruined him. I think Kaiser is done, and I think Hugh Jackson knows that.
So why not stop this cycle now and select a home run in Vea?
You gotta please your fan base at the same time, or if you draft a 350-pound defensive tackle and say this is our franchise instead of the pretty boy quarterback who's supposedly going to lead you to greatness, if
you tell them this is the next Haloti Ngata, then maybe the smart fans would catch on.
Yes, so listen to me, Cleveland.
Cleveland rocks. All right, so that's a good prelude into Nick's actual question from this week. I gotta gather my composure before I even talk about this. Okay, Brandon, Mike Vrabel? I do not know anymore. Bye-bye, LeBeau. I thought he did wonders for our defense. I'm nervous about the future, and if you asked me last offseason, I would have said the exact opposite. Crazy what a year can do to your franchise in the NFL. Give me your expert take, Nick Pertins. Far from an expert, Nick. I don't know what's going on. This is really Dan's area forte. I don't really keep up as much with the offseason stuff. But I know what they need. I know what the focus needs to be. And you're right about Dick LeBeau. I don't know. You bring in, like I called him last week, a boneheaded ex-linebacker. I would think you would want one less thing to worry about, and that one less thing was Dick LeBeau, who turned that offense from 30th to 15th in one season. I know he's 80. If he wants to retire, if he wants to hang it up and the energy's not there and he told you that, then sure, okay. But I have not got that indication. My indication was he maybe was a little bit blindsided by it, and I thought he did a hell of a job. So why wouldn't you as a GM and a new head coach not want to at least keep that piece in place so you only have to really focus and worry about the offense, which was clearly the struggles here. So I don't know. Dan's kind of worrying a little bit about John Robinson. I'm not pushing that panic button quite yet, but I think we may be seeing that maybe John Robinson is better at bringing in talent and personnel to the playing field and maybe not so good at sorting out management. I don't know. That's yet to be seen, but I wasn't crazy about the Mike Vrabel hire to begin with. Now, as far as I can tell, they're only saving grace, maybe the quarterback coach from Philly, John DeFilippo. How do you pronounce it, Dan? I always see that name, and I was like, DeFilippo. Yes, DeFilippo. The emphasize. Yeah, DeFilippo. So the quarterback coach, which I guess he's done a great job. Carson Wentz had a huge year, first half anyway, and then Nick Foles seems to be doing great. So to me, that may be the only saving grace right now is to get someone like that who you think is going to be good for your offense. So, but not really crazy about the Mike Vrabel hire. Now you got two coordinator positions to really fill, the great Dick LeBeau, and you got to bring in someone who's going to help Mariota progress instead of regress, as we talked about 13 and 18 this year. Horrible numbers. And I don't know. I'm not seeing it, Dan. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I don't know what else I can really say about that. We're just going to have to wait and see, but it definitely appears to me that it's not heading down a great path. And like I said, maybe, just maybe, the deal is because John Robinson has been great overhauling talent and bringing talent back to the Titans. That's why they made the playoffs this year and won a playoff game. Part of that's because of Andy Reid as well. But the talent turnaround was great by John Robinson. A freaking plus, but maybe putting the right pieces in place to manage and guide these guys is not his strong suit. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly in that respect. I didn't even think about it that way because I have been kind of questioning John Robinson, a guy that I've fallen in love with as an executive in the NFL, just the way he's been able to construct that Titans roster. Because a few years ago, right before he took over, I mean, it was in shambles. So, I mean, I like what he's done, but yeah, I don't understand the hire. The one thing that we talked about, I think we talked about it on the podcast last week, if they do go with Vrabel, which they ended up doing, is he's got to bring in an OC that has some type of offensive, mastermind, QB whisperer, something to get Mariota.
Because he doesn't have it himself.
No, not at all. No, I mean, he's obviously what you said, bonehead linebacker. So, what I didn't like is their first candidate was a co-offensive coordinator at Ohio State who ended up saying no to the Titans as he was promoted to offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Maybe he wanted to stay in the college game, but you're getting spurned by a co-offensive coordinator in a college.
Well, and here's the other thing, Dan. Like I told you on the message board today, then your second choice was Betcher, who turned down your offensive coordinator job to take a defensive coordinator job with the Giants. So obviously he feels more comfortable as a DC, and that was one of your first choices for OC? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's head scratching over there, and part of being a good head coach is assembling a staff. So it's not a good start for Vrabel. It's not looking good on John Robinson. And in an offseason where you just had, the first taste of success with this group of players on the Titans, it's been a while. It's kind of in flux right now. Where are they going to go? You can make a terrible hire, and that playoff team is all of a sudden 6-10 next year. Or are you going to put the pieces around, develop what you have with Mariota, Henry, all those receivers, and make something out of it? They should have a lot better offense than what they had this year, and you're going to need a solid offensive coordinator to make that happen.
They had a better offense last year with a worse defense, which is very head-scratching to me. I mean, and part of that was DeMarco Murray was just not quite the same, and he was doing wonderful things last year, but the defense was horrible. I mean, the defense was absolutely horrible. They were like 30th against the pass last year. So, and the regression of Mariota is not good, and it was not injury-related, in my opinion. It wasn't with the broken leg last year. I mean, just something wasn't quite right with this whole offense, and I don't know. It's not heading down the right path. It's going to take something. I don't know. Maybe DeFilippo, maybe he would be the saving grace. Seems to be doing pretty good in Philly this year. So we got to have someone like that. You just can't have these defensive-minded, play in the mud type of guys running this type of offense with a dynamic quarterback like Mariota. I don't know. Nick, I don't know. Maybe we'll know more next week on next week's show, but thanks for the question. What we're going to do next is talk more hoops. We've got an NBA question from that Pelicans fan in New Orleans, and we're also going to talk some college hoops next. You are listening to and watching My Fantasy Podcast from MyFantasySportsTalk.com. Look it up. It's a killer site, man. I really recommend it for all the news and entertainment too, right, Dan? Entertainment's been blowing up again. Had a little bit of a lull maybe over the holidays, but now the entertainment side is blowing up again. Those guys are doing great things. So, just don't think of us just as sports. The sports is awesome. We rock, and the draft coverage is going to be knocked out of the park again. But entertainment side, very, very good stuff over there.
As always, TV show you watch, check it out. Check out the site because they probably have a recap, review, analysis of it. They're on top of things, and I mean, our entertainment section. Shout out to Kira McCall who basically runs that bad boy, and she does a great job.
And something for Orlando, which I know you've been keeping up with too, which is kind of entertainment. What about the Enzo Amore situation, dog?
Oh man, it's kind of crazy to even bring that subject up, but yeah, no, it's a lot. Cause it's gonna see interesting how it plays out. But yeah, pretty touchy subject. It's unfortunate, but he's not the first or the last person is on TV or whatever it is with an actor, athlete, whatever, to come into problems like this. So.
Whoever posted the YouTube video on the message board today, though, it was either you or Ashley Rose, somebody. But
no, it was me. I think it was me.
Do you believe that? That seemed legit, right?
It seems legit. But then again, I don't want to give a full opinion just yet. Just let it play out. I don't want to be like, oh, she was lying or throw him in jail. I'm just gonna let it play out because. An issue like that is kind of big, so I know he already issued a statement yesterday with his lawyers, so this does seem kind of fishy. Something's definitely going on there.
In today's world, you got to be sensitive to any allegations, but I just personally hate when people lose their job and conclusions are jumped to before it actually plays out. I mean, what happened to, innocent until proven guilty? That's just what I hate, because now it looks like this girl may have had some issues and may have been fabricating this whole thing, may have totally been consensual and then changed her mind after the fact and could really ruin this guy's life. And And I'm not trying to take a stand as for all these women are liars. No, I'm actually supporting even like the Me Too movement, because this dampers your cause when women have legitimate complaints and have legitimately been, taken advantage of, whatever, date rape, whatever it is, with the Larry Nassar situation going on now, which is, just it's unthinkable, but I truly believe that. But let these things play out. I mean, it's just sad when people like lose their jobs, lose their livelihoods on just some, because it could happen to me or you or anybody. Anybody can make up anything. And I would just like to see the process of courts and truth come out before, lives are changed with this. And false stories really only hurt the true stories. And it's a sensitive subject, but we'll see what happens. But for those who are intrigued by what we're talking about, and maybe wrestling fans, WWE fans, got to check out the website, myfantasysportstalk.com, right there. And when I say entertainment side, it's all right there, myfantasysportstalk.com. You can check out all the entertainment and all the sports all on that one website. So check us out if you're new to the podcast, new to the site. We appreciate it. Next question comes from this Pelicans fan, Alicia St. Pelicans Tyler. Who would you want to build your team around, DeMarcus Cousins or Anthony Davis? Man, I don't know. It's a tough question. I'm really leaning towards Anthony Davis because DeMarcus, I don't like your attitude. What do you think, Orlando?
I was going to lean actually with DeMarcus Cousins, and I think why he may get overlooked for Anthony Davis is because of his attitude. But you go back to the Sacramento days. I mean, how many coaches did he have in his time there? Like 5 or 6 coaches he had to go through. I mean, I understand DeMarcus Cousins has an attitude problem, but that could be fixed where you go, you put him at the right organization or someone that can handle him for not having such bad character issues.
You think Brad Stevens could handle him? Because somebody like a Boston, maybe Cleveland. You think Tyronn Lue could handle him?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say who could handle who because, I mean, the whole Cavs locker room is just falling apart to begin with. So I don't even know what Tyronn Lue is handling over there in Cleveland right now. You might have to ask LeBron about that. So,
you mean the coach, the real coach? Because Tyronn Lue was a puppet that LeBron put in place from the very get-go.
Yeah. But I would actually go with DeMarcus Cousins. He can shoot the 3 ball, I think, a little bit better than Anthony Davis. Health-wise, you could count on Cousins more than Anthony Davis because I'm sure as an Anthony Davis fan or, for Pelicans fans or even if you own Anthony Davis in fantasy, it's frustrating because you just never know when the guy is going to play, but he's going to perform when he's there. I think Anthony Davis is also a bit of a just all-around player. I think he's a better passer. So besides the character traits, I'm going to go with DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I really agree with a lot of what you said. I think there may be a little bit more of a health issue or concern right now so far with Anthony Davis than DeMarcus Cousins. I think DeMarcus Cousins is a brute force scorer, can do it in every single way, and like you said, hit the threes because he did it against Memphis just last week. So I think if you're looking for that brute force scorer, that pounder, just an uncanny knack around the hoop just to get the damn job done, then it's probably DeMarcus Cousins. If you're looking for more of a rim protector and floor runner and just a lanky guy, then I'm probably going with Anthony Davis, which has that scoring ability too. So I just really think it depends on what's going to fit your team better, because I do think Anthony Davis runs the floor better and is a little bit better defender, just longer reach, better shot blocker, better rim protector. But, I mean, man, they're close. They're really 2 great players, and you see that now with the Pelicans and both of them being able to thrive off of each other and put up fantasy numbers. It's unbelievable. It's astonishing that they're both coexisting like they are, because you've seen it really hadn't worked out in Oklahoma City with Russ and Paul George. It worked out fairly well with Houston with CP3 and James Harden when they've both been on the same floor together. So I don't know. But Dan, what do you think? It's a tough call.
Not for me. For me, it's easy. It's Anthony Davis. A large majority is because of the attitude issues. I don't think any coach can just cure a player. I think that attitude's always going to be there with DeMarcus Cousins. We've seen, progress in New Orleans, but anytime, I mean, he can just blow a gasket, and whether it's in a game and pick up a couple T's and get ejected, or on his own teammates in practice in the locker room.
Or hit a referee. You never know.
Right. So, I mean, if I'm building a franchise around a guy, I'm going to choose Anthony Davis. He's better defensively. Even when you look at scoring, I mean, Anthony Davis scores more points, just their career numbers. And even when we're looking at injury history, DeMarcus Cousins hasn't played a full season yet either. I mean, he's never been able to play 82 games, where, Anthony Davis is consistently between 60, 68, 75 he was able to play last year, similar to DeMarcus Cousins, who 72, 65, 59, 64. So they both miss games. So if I'm choosing one, I'm choosing the younger, and overall I think has more potential still at this point in his career, with Anthony Davis.
Wow. Okay. You had a definitive answer there. No sway in your hips whatsoever. But I think, okay, you broke down the numbers. You're saying Anthony Davis, but I think a lot of that was your opinion of that DeMarcus is just a loose cannon, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, in Sacramento, yeah, but it's going on the second year already that he's been in New Orleans. You haven't really heard some of that craziness that you would hear from Sacramento on a consistent basis. I mean, I think that has a little bit to say of the environment that was going on in Sacramento too.
Yeah, but I can go back to his days at Kentucky and talk about it too. So I mean, it's attitude-wise, he's doing good. I'm proud of the guy. Proud of you, DeMarcus. But I wouldn't build my franchise.
No, trust me, I wouldn't want to piss him off either. I'm just saying.
Who's their coach? Is it Gentry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe he's able to keep him in check, but I would be scared to death if he were to play for someone like a Boston, and Brad Stevens, that little nerdy geek, is going to try to keep DeMarcus Cousins in line. I mean, the first time he pisses him off, or even a young coach like a Tyronn Lue. Hey, what about Jason Kidd getting fired? Where'd that come from? Do you guys think that was warranted?
Rift with the front office. I mean, if you don't get along with your bosses, you're not long for the sidelines.
That was just kind of out of the blue to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely was.
Middle of the season when they're in the thick of the playoffs. I don't know what they are. Were they 5, 6 seed right now?
8 seed, actually.
Oh, wow.
So okay. Yeah, they've struggled lately.
Okay. Was not completely aware of that, but that does make a little bit of a difference. So I don't know. We're kind of split right there. I'm saying you could go either way based on the type of player you need, Alicia. Orlando's clearly saying DeMarcus Cousins, and Dan is for show saying Anthony Davis. So I don't know. It's tough, but I don't see them playing together for too much longer. You can't. You just can't do that. Not sure they can even afford that, but you need to be peaking right now because that's a pretty damn good team you have in New Orleans. So thanks for the question, Alicia. St. Pelicans, Tyler. Now, let's move on and talk about a college b-ball question real quick before we get into Orlando's Kawhi Leonard just a second. But college b-ball question here. This one's from Boomer Sooner. Is Trae Young the next great superstar or a future ball hog who can put up numbers but fails to win ball games? I just want to say one thing about this because I have my opinion more as of late. The assist numbers he was putting up early in the season is what caught my eye. And I think he could be a great player. True freshman, guys. Okay. So Oklahoma has lost 3 of their last 6 games. Versus West Virginia, he was 8 for 22 in a loss. Versus Kansas State, he was 8 for 21 in a loss. The miracle game where he put up 48 points against Oklahoma State, he was 14 of 39. You hear me? 39. He shot it 39 times. That's ridiculous in a loss. He's taken 379 shots this season in 19 games. The next closest shot taker is Christian James with 170. You heard me? He has taken over 200 more shots than the next highest shot taker on that team. I'm leaning towards ball hog. Dan?
Man, I love watching Trae Young play. I've watched so many more Oklahoma games this season than I thought I was going to. And it's so weird because for those who listen to the show on a regular basis or back in our old school season 2, season 1 days, no, I'm not a Steph Curry fan.
Say what?
And this guy's he's going to be better than Steph Curry. I absolutely love his game. There's been some games where he's taken a ton of shots. I mean, I watched him in that Oklahoma State game when he was just chucking up shots. He was just literally got a couple steps past half court and he was just shooting the ball. A couple of them went in. It was like
LaMelo Ball style, huh? That sounds like LaMelo Ball. Was LeVar his coach? Did LeVar coach him in high school?
It's crazy. It's crazy to watch him play. If you sit down and watch a Trae Young game, you're going to be entertained. His court vision for the passes that he makes is unbelievable. That's what I would like to see. Okay, so the Oklahoma State game, I believe they lost by 2. If he would have passed on half of his shots, they would have won. He shot it 39 times. And I do like his his passing vision, his floor vision, his passing ability. That's where he needs to make his living, not shooting that many times. Right. And here's what I like about Trae Young, because after that, I watched that entire Oklahoma State game. After that game, during the week leading up to their game yesterday against Kansas, he said he's going to change. He's not going to be that type of player. He watched the tape. He said, I know I can learn from my mistakes and I can do it. Against Kansas, number 5 Kansas, Oklahoma, he shot 9 total shots, made 7 of them, 78%, was 10 for 12 from the free throw line, still managed 26 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds. So I think he's conscious that he knows he can't be chucking the way he's been chucking. And if he makes an effort to pass the ball, to not always shoot it, I think he's going to be a superstar. And there's going to be some talented players in the NBA draft this year. I would take Trae Young first overall and not look back.
Over Marvin Bagley?
Over all of them. DeAndre Ayton, all of them. Trae Young.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
If you can get Steph Curry in the draft, where are you going to take him? Compared to what is Marvin Bagley going to be? A great.
I'm not making that comparison yet. I'm not making that comparison.
He's better than Steph Curry right now. Right now, Steph Curry's garbaged him. Can't smell his jock.
Oh, don't even start again.
Can't smell his jock.
Okay. He's a chucker, Dan. He's a chucker. Trae Young is a chucker.
Changed.
He's a chucker. Okay. All right.
Better.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're running out of time here. Let's do this one real quick. This is from Reed Thomas. Does Kawhi have any fantasy value? I have him in a competitive 12-man league. Top 6 make the playoffs, and I'm currently in 5th place. There isn't anything I'm targeting on the waiver. Just can't have him taking up a roster spot with no IR. So, Orlando, help me out here, because I wanted to play Kawhi in daily fantasy quite a bit, but you got to fill me in on this injury situation. Then we heard this week about the issue of maybe a rift with him in the front office, or with him and Popovich, or whatever's going on there. So explain to us from San Antonio there, what is going on with Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah, well, just a lingering injury, and it's supposedly it's causing tension. He's feeling disconnected, distance from the Spurs organization. And it is a little bit eyebrow-raising, because even Pop has mentioned about it, said it's weird not having Kawhi back in the lineup, or Kawhi saying he's not feeling comfortable. And if Kawhi's not Kawhi, we're going to let him get healthy. That's their guy. That's their star. He's due for a maximum coming up in a year or two. But you look at Parker's injury, and it looked like Parker was pretty much done when he suffered that injury against the Warriors. But he's already back on the court. I mean, obviously Parker's a little bit older, but he's older and he's back sooner than Kawhi's. And Kawhi comes back, plays 9 games, he has a tear in his shoulder, partial tear. He could still play, and the quad is still bothering him. So, to me, I'm not going to blow it up completely. I do believe there's something going on. I don't think the Spurs are just gonna let Kawhi walk away. I think they're gonna be able to make him happy. But as far as fantasy goes, being that he said he's in the fifth seeding, I might hang on to him because there's rumors that he may be back around the All-Star game or after the All-Star break. I don't think he's going to completely miss the whole season. And it really is a serious injury that we don't really know too many details about. Unless he needs to make a move, it's going to be hard to trade him. And if Kawhi does come back within a month or two after the All-Star break, you're not going to get much for him right now at this current value. So right now that he's still in, I got to hold on to him rather than dropping him because he's going to come back sometime in the season with whatever's going on.
Well, I'm going just the opposite. If I had to give some advice to Reed here, trade him to a sucker. Find you a sucker in your league, and you need to unload him right now. When someone still has the hopes that he could be, MVP type caliber player for the back half of the season. Trade him for a good, solid player that's going to get you, because All-Star break, man, you're talking about another month. If you're talking about after the All-Star break, you're talking about another month, and that's if everything goes great. So,
well, that's what I mean. I mean, it's going to be hard to trade him. I mean, if you could find a sucker like that who hasn't heard any of the news that's been going around, then yes, you make that move.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's going to be hard getting something that you would want, and knowing what he's worth currently.
I'm just saying a solid player. Like, I would almost trade Kawhi for Ryan Anderson or somebody like that. I mean, just get you something in return. Someone who's going to at least average 20 points a game right now, because there is nothing on the waiver wire, and nothing is going to be on the waiver wire. Just gap fillers, unless you can find someone like a Shabazz Napier. When someone gets hurt, maybe you can find gap fillers like that. When Damian Lillard got hurt a couple of weeks ago, and Shabazz Napier went off, a few weeks in a row, and he was on the waiver wire. So that's the only thing you're going to be able to find on the waiver wire going forward from here on out, because you're in a 12-man league, and I think ours is 12-2, right, Dan? 6 make it, so I think it's 12-2. So yeah, competitive 12-man league as well. There's nothing left on the waiver wire except just day-to-day gap fillers. So that's tough, but yeah, I'm saying find a sucker, and Orlando agrees, straight out of San Antonio. So thanks for the question, Reed Thomas. Let's move on. The last one before our foodie question, we're going to throw it back to Dan here. This one comes from Mike Kendall. It is a NFL draft question. Give me a couple running backs that won't be drafted until day 3, but can be solid players or starters in the league. Dan, just kind of glancing down from guys that I had from rounds 3 to 4 that projected maybe rounds 3 to 4. I like Rashard Penny from San Diego State, 5'11", 220, over 2,200 yards this year, 23 TDs, strong, low center of gravity, downhill runner, could be something in the NFL. The other guy, Nyheim Hines, I think if I pronounce his first name right, Nyheim Hines. Anyway, NC State, 5'9", 197, 4.4 speed. He's a speedster. Could really be a good special teamer and change of pace back in the NFL. Could be just one of those weapon type guys. And then I like Bo Scarborough and Cameron Petway, the two Auburn, Alabama guys who've had names. I think they had better years last year than this year, but still big names, and they still should be in that conversation of, day 3, 4, I don't know, round 3, 4, 5, anyway, somewhere in there. So those are the few guys that I kind of listed out. Dan, what do you think of that if you're talking about day 3?
Yeah, I got a couple other guys on my list, but just to touch on one of the guys that you mentioned is Penny from San Diego State. I actually have him ranked as my 3rd running back right now overall. And I have a 2nd-round grade on him right now. I haven't finished all of his tape, but I love Penny. I think he's going to be a stud. He might not get drafted in the 2nd round, but the production is there. You might say he lacks NFL speed, but his vision is tackle-breaking ability. I like him. So I'm all over Penny in the draft. 3 guys that I have. One that I absolutely love. I don't know if you watched him play. He went to Southern Miss, Ito Smith, 4-year starter, 1,000 yards, 3 out of the 4 years. He had 49 total touchdowns, 40-plus receptions in 3 of his 4 years. He can do it all. He's not the biggest back. He has some legitimate speed, but he's going to be a viable option in the receiving game. He reminds me of kind of a poor man's Devontae Freeman. He's not as fast. He's not as strong. But he has that type of ability where he can make an impact in the receiving, rushing game, or even the return game if you wanted. So Ito Smith is a name to watch. Another guy is Rock Thomas. He went to Jacksonville State, but before that, he was actually an Auburn recruit with the same recruiting class as you see with Petway and some of the other names. I like Rock Thomas. He didn't cut it at Auburn, but in Jacksonville State, he kind of shined. He had over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's only 195 pounds, so I want to see him add some more weight. But he has the speed to really make an impact. So I like Rock Thomas as well. He's even a later round guy, 6th, 7th round, I think is where he'll go. And then I'm going to kind of do a homer pick with Phillip Lindsay and the Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado's all-time leading rusher beating out Rashaan Salam. He's got it all, man. High motor, high energy, low to the ground at only 5'8", but he brings power with him. He has tree trunk type legs like a Devontae Freeman, who I previously mentioned. I just like Phillip Lindsay, and he's all heart. He was the team captain as a sophomore, junior, and senior. And he had a fantastic East-West Shrine, not game, but practices leading up. He was falling in love. He was basically the leader of that team when they had their game after practice week, just showing that his leadership skills are off the charts and something that I like and an NFL team will fall in love with. So those are 3 guys later in the draft to keep your eye out for.
There you go, Mike Kendall. Hope you were listening. Hope Nick Pertins was listening. Hope all you guys are listening because we're dropping draft knowledge on you, little subtle pieces all the way through these shows leading up to the draft, which you still got several months, but we will do it right here live on My Fantasy Podcast from myfantasysportstalk.com. No, we're not going to forget the foodie question, and this is a big one. This is a Super Bowl edition of the foodie question, so this is it. This is kind of weird because I just noticed something. We got a dude named Crawford recommended some crawfish dip, didn't we? Is that what he said? Yeah. Crab dip. Okay. Sorry. Anyway, George Crawford, My Fantasy Food Talk. What's up? Enjoy the food talk. Maybe because I'm a fat guy that will eat your face off if edible. What kind of food are you making, eating for your Super Bowl parties? I love me some dips, taco, stuffed pepper, but this year I'm going out on a limb and going to try the hot crab dip. It's the bomb, kind of like the bombs Foles going to be throwing all over the Pats.
Oh, God.
George Hannibal Crawford.
How did this get past Dan?
I liked it.
It is a very good question and appropriate since Super Bowl is coming up a week from Sunday. I love everything Crawford said. Dips are a must, and a taco dip. I don't know if you're talking about like a Fiesta dip. Anyway, that sounds intriguing. I love a taco dip. That sounds great. Stuffed peppers, love stuffed peppers. So anything you said or everything you said, I love, especially the dips. Dips are very important to a party. Got to have the dips. I also got to have some wings. Got to have, and Dan would probably attest to this, got to have some kind of buffalo wings. I know they do it much better in Buffalo, but any kind of wings you got to have. And then I'm saying chili. Chili is a great thing for any kind of party like this, especially through the winter months, because chili is so versatile. You can have a cup of chili. You can have a chili dog. You can have chili nachos. You can have a chili Frito pie. Whatever you want to do with chili. Chili is so versatile that it's a must for a Super Bowl party. So I really recommend that. Dan, what's on your list?
So I have a tradition every year for the Super Bowl. I don't usually have a big party. I like to watch it at home.
Because you're studying film.
Yeah, man. I play. Usually Super Bowl is my big betting day, so I usually play.
You're not a pleasure to be around, huh?
And have the crowds around me. But I make homemade pizzas. So roll the dough, do it all, get the sauce, and I make homemade pizzas. But in terms of dip, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Brandon said because he doesn't know what the hell a buffalo wing is until he has one in Buffalo. Chicken wing dip. I had chicken wing soup last week, chicken wing dip this week. I'm telling you right now, it's to die for. If you've never had it, come to Buffalo and get it because it's absolutely delicious. Easy to make, too. I'll post the recipe sometime.
Come and get it. Orlando, what's on your Super Bowl party menu?
See, the same thing. I love watching Super Bowl. I always watch it with a bunch of friends or family. So we usually do a lot of finger foods. Usually Super Bowl day, I don't feel like cooking nothing. So anything that's just easy, 7-layer dip, hot dogs, pizza, chips, something like that. I don't go too crazy with the food on Super Bowl Sunday, only because I'm more worried about having a good time and watching the game rather than trying to get a little.
Having the Shiner Bock flowing, right?
Oh yeah,
Heineken.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out Heineken. Where you at?
Yeah, where are you?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get I'll bring in the Heineken for sure. But so pizza, hot dog, chips, wash on with the nice cold Heineken. There's your plug. That's usually what comes in mind for Super Bowl Sunday.
There you go. So thanks for the question, George Hannibal Crawford. Got to keep this face intact, man. Back up off us. But appreciate all the foodie questions. Dan said they're blowing up, and appreciate all the questions. Hey, include some more fantasy basketball questions. That's what I was asking Dan about this week. Are we not getting any fantasy basketball questions? We're done with football. Let's get in some fantasy basketball because I got a title to win. Take it down, D. Dan Shaw.
Joke to end the podcast. Love it.
Ain't nothing funny about this. It's going down, I promise you. But thanks for the question, guys. Thanks to Orlando Torres for dropping in and my co-host Dan Shaw. Until next week, I am Brandon Reed. See you later, podcast peeps. Peace.